Welcome everybody, I'm Rob Scott from UC Today, and today I'm joined by Dom Black, Head of Research at Cavell Group. And in today's session, we're going to be talking about COVID-19 and how it's been impacting the cloud communications industry. So good morning, Dom, how are you?
Morning, Rob, very good, thank you. Doing very well, keeping safe, and I hope you are too.
Yeah, despite the obvious, of course.
Yeah.
Right in the middle of lockdown. We're not allowed to do our usual things, but despite the challenges, I'm absolutely fine. Thank you very much.
Good.
Glad you are too.
Yeah.
So Dom, interesting session this morning. COVID-19, you've done a survey. But before we get started on that survey and talk about the kind of results, how about you just tell us a little bit about kind of who you are, what Cavell do, and how you came about doing this survey?
Sure. So I've been with Cavell for pretty much my whole career, helping us build up the research side of the business. We're focused on the cloud communications industry from a research perspective, and have been looking at how the industry's been evolving across Europe and North America, really working with the vendors, the service providers, and the channel, giving them the insights needed to really kind of create actionable outcome. So no longer just providing the data, but really understanding what that data actually means, and enabling them to grow into new markets or grow into launch new products. So not just an analyst firm, but sort of working much deeper on a consultancy basis with the industry. The reason we did this was we release our market reports every twice a year, looking at how the market's changing in each of these markets. And obviously the impact of COVID-19 has been huge on this industry. But one thing that we are noticing is we're seeing a lot of providers coming out saying, oh, we're growing X percentage, or our platforms had X percent more usage on it in terms of video minutes. But we really wanted to sort of track that on an industry-wide basis and help the industry understand what's happening on a wider market scale and not just on their product set. So we went out and used our extensive contact base within the industry, and went out and surveyed the market to try and get a better feel for really what's happening here, how's it changing, and what are we going to look to in the future.
Great stuff. And I must admit, I'm a real fan of your research and your reports. I always get some fantastic insights from what you do. In terms of the target audience, or sort of the respondents to the survey, who exactly did you go out to?
So we put it out to the market. So we had a few responses from vendors coming back in and giving us their view on what's happening on a vendor perspective. But I'd say majority of the respondents and those who we actually tracked within the numbers here were service providers. So people who own their own platform and were either selling to end customers directly or selling to end customers through channels or through agents. From that, I think that's been fascinating to see how they've changed and had to change their business models to really react to the growth in home working, the growth in remote working, and enabling people to take a cloud solution pretty quickly off the bat, as people were scrambling for that disaster recovery solution.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, scrambling's a great word, isn't it? I mean, literally overnight, COVID-19 hit this industry and hit the world, but ultimately the industry had to react very quickly to the sudden demand in services. So, what did you find? I mean, what's happening out there?
So, I mean, from a sales perspective, what we saw was new business inquiries increased by just under 40%, which translated to new business wins compared to a normal month. New business wins increased by 30% on average across the whole service provider base. Obviously, some of those service providers were only growing a small amount, and adding 30% on is quite significant. When you're talking some of the larger providers who growth increased by 30% of net new users, that's fairly significant there. So we saw a massive uptick in number of users as well, deployed across all the different platforms. So it's been fascinating looking at that and going, right, well, this has really pushed the market on, and have we seen really this is the start of the acceptance of cloud. On most of the markets we look at across Europe, cloud penetration into the PBX space is typically under 20%, and in some markets much lower. So is this really the driver now that we're going to see people moving away from on-premise and going, well, actually our on-premise equipment and our PBXs in our own data centers aren't sufficient for what we need in the future?
So that sudden adoption, those additional sales, were they, cloud PBX sales, voice only sales, or were they video conferencing sales? What type of?
So these were predominantly cloud voice, so cloud UC sales. If we looked at kind of the team collaboration and audio conferencing, a lot of the providers were selling those alongside. And when we look at how people are offering a lot of these services, 75% of the providers we spoke to are offering free trials to their customers of new products on their solutions. Around 50% are offering discounts on these new products, and about 45% are offering freemium models, so free to start and then paid after a month or two. What we saw in terms of a usage increase was 43% of people, increases on the video team collaboration was enormous, with most people reporting between over 50% growth. 19% of respondents said they've seen an over 100% increase in the usage of team collaboration, and video conferencing much the same. So we're seeing huge increases on those platforms there. What was interesting looking at the voice minutes though, was voice minutes, most providers saying that the voice minutes didn't actually increase that much. Some were saying, yes, there was big increases on there, but really the increase of usage that we've seen has been video and team collaboration. And in most instances we're seeing is those being offered as free trials for people to their end customers. So it'll be really interesting to see if they can actually convert them to paying users at the end of this.
Yeah, exactly. How do you think that's going to roll out? I mean, we don't know how long COVID-19 is going to be around for, but we expect it's going to affect us for several months, if not into next year. But this spike that the industry's experiencing right now, do you think that's going to be a downslope at some point? Are we already on it?
Well, I have to say we're not really sure. I think anyone trying to make any long-term predictions off the back of this after a month's worth of data is going to struggle. Due to that, we're going to be rerunning the survey, and I'll send you over the link if anyone listening to this wants to participate at the end of this month. And we'll be continually running a survey, updating some of the questions to really get a feel of how this market is changing. From our perspective, on our forecast model in our reports, we are showing now what our traditional forecast would be, what the industry impact would be, that actually this is acceptance of cloud and everyone's starting to move towards cloud. So this growth we're seeing is going to be continually on there. But we're also forecasting a couple of other scenarios on there, which again look at, right, we're going to see massive growth in the first month, but then it's going to drop off completely. We also can't forget that the impact of this might be that a lot of people are going to lose customers over this. We're already seeing some reports from the government and industry bodies saying that we're going to go into recession here. A lot of businesses might go out of business. So I think there's potentially a big impact looking forward in the future here, that we might be having massive growth at the moment, but those paying customers in the long term might start disappearing as their businesses become unviable and they go under. So I think that's also a risk for this industry of how do we keep those customers and flex our plans so that if people are going through financial difficulty, maybe we're offering longer term free models, deferring payments. So in our next study, we're going to start looking at that, which will be out at the end of this month. So we'll be giving results at the end of April there.
That's really interesting. So it is a huge positive for the industry that end customer organizations will certainly wake up to cloud if they're not in the cloud already, for their voice and collaboration. So we're naturally going to enjoy that kind of upslope in terms of adoption. But what you're saying there is the negative side is potentially businesses aren't going to be able to survive through this period. And if I've got you, if I'm understanding you correctly, what you're saying is that some of the comms organizations won't be able to survive through this period. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I don't think this is going to knock some of these people out of business completely, but I think there's definitely going to be a struggle for some of these providers, not just on the economic recession, but for a lot of companies now looking at what their strategy is going forward, and maybe they had a PBX before and the logical step for them in the next couple of years was to move to cloud. There is an idea maybe that the role of collaboration for inter-company communications becomes more important, and they move away from voice as a core channel and maybe turn around and go, well, we actually only need 1 or 2 inbound lines. Everything else can be done on a team collaboration platform. Any external can be done with video conferencing on a meetings platform. So does their model have to change, and does their product set have to change from just offering a cloud PBX to bringing, right, we actually need to offer a full holistic solution to our end customers? So I think there's, for those who are just offering kind of a very basic PBX service or cloud PBX service, that might not be enough in the future. I think this has been a month of people having to change their business habits, their working habits. And if this goes on much longer, you don't know how this is going to really impact long-term business habits. We're going to be looking in, I think we're launching it in June, our enterprise research again. So we go out and do a study of around 2,000 businesses across Europe and North America, looking at how their communications buying habits are changing, what solutions they're using. And one of those key things is going to be looking at is how are you still coping due to COVID? What are you using? How have you adopted these different solutions, and why have you done so? So hopefully that should give us a really good view on what the enterprise is demanding and how that's changing. I think one issue again for the industry is there might become a perception that after using all these services for free after the last few months, is that those services are free, and suddenly when you're suddenly being asked to pay for these services, people go, well, do we actually want to pay for these? So I think there's some issues around that could be a big threat. I think there are obviously other positives as well. I think providers who have got a really good digital sales journey where they don't have to have or speak to salespeople, we've seen them be fairly successful, more than those who have a kind of a fixed sales team and a physical sales team, as they've enabled people to go up, sign up on their websites and get the service up and running quickly. So I think there'll be more focus on digital journey as we move forward over the next few months. But I think the acceptance of cloud, you look at all the marketing messages that have been said over the last few years by all the providers of why you should move to the cloud, they're all real now. It's all around disaster recovery and remote working. So I think there should be a real boon for this industry moving forward. That this is where we become successful here.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that the impact of COVID-19 on the industry and the workplace and the way we work is going to be significant. It might be that a lot of organizations, as we were talking offline about just putting sticky plasters over this kind of initial period, that they might sign up to a freemium account with X company, but then actually once the dust settled, they get time to kind of review things. They want to make sure the platform's secure. They want to make sure it integrates with their environment, etc. So it's likely that things will, I suppose, have a second kind of resurgence of interest, I suppose, as people trying to work out what they actually need going forward.
Yeah, and I think looking at our study and looking at what enterprises are demanding of their service providers, interestingly, 60% of the products that were most requested, Microsoft Teams came top in there. So do you have an integration with Microsoft Teams? Do you work with Microsoft Teams? I think this has been a real benefit for Microsoft Teams, if you forgive the bad situation that's forced it. But people have realized that they can collaborate, and Microsoft Teams as a free product was sat there for people to come up and use. The second biggest product on there was Zoom as well. So I think the two big winners out of this have been Zoom and Microsoft. We're still seeing quite a few people request WebEx Teams as well. And interestingly, around 20% were saying, oh, do you do Skype for Business? Which is a product which should be end of life in about a year's time. But around 20% of the providers said that they're getting requests for Skype for Business. So is the messaging still going down to the channel that Microsoft Teams is the future and Skype for Business isn't? So I think there's a really good opportunity here for providers to really help hold their customers' hands through the next stage of their their migration to cloud. Let them understand what products they need to have in their portfolio, understand what products you need to have in your portfolio, but making sure that they can take these, get them into their portfolio succinctly, show them they're all fully integrated, and hopefully grow and move forward into the future.
Great, Dom. Hey, Dom, it's been fantastic speaking to you again today. The survey's really obviously timely, but it's very, very interesting in terms of the results. Cavell are going to be putting this on again, so we're going to put a link in the description here so you can follow up and jump in on that second round of the survey, because we actively encourage everyone to get involved, because it's really important that we know what's happening in the industry right now. So if you've enjoyed today's session, we'd really appreciate a like or a share. And if you're looking for more information, you can reach out to Dom on LinkedIn, or you can reach out to the Cavell Group, their main website. So I'll put all that information on the description of this video. So thanks again, and we'll see you again soon.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Rob. Cheers.